Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about the political ramifications of Israel's genocide of Gaza. And one of the first ones is Spain has been a really strong supporter of the Palestinian cause in recent months. And so we hear from the Prime Minister of Spain, Sanchez, who declared that his government will recognize the state of Palestine, which is a major victory for Palestine. We also see that the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC, says his office has received a referral from 5 countries: South Africa, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Comoros, and Djibouti, regarding the situation in the state of Palestine. I do not know, I will fully admit this, I don't know where Comoros is. I know all 4 of the other ones, but we could see here, I'm going to look it up real quick. Comoros. Archipelago island, southeastern Africa. Okay, so let's look at this again. So we have 1, 2, 3 countries in Africa, 1 country in Latin America, 1 country in Asia, all putting a referral through the ICC regarding the situation in the state of Palestine. So we see that there's very broad support for the state of Palestine all across the world, which is very beneficial for Palestine and should be very concerning for Israel and the Zionist occupied government of the United States. And so we see here Al Arabi saying that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco are the countries that rejected the draft proposal for an oil ban and banning the United States from using the Arabic airspace to deliver arms or bombs to other countries in the region. So very unfortunate that these are the 4 countries. Saudi Arabia and UAE in particular, because of their financial wealth. Bahrain should be very concerned about taking this action because they are a Sunni government that controls a primarily Shia population. And really, the only reason they're able to do that is because they have the backing of countries like Saudi Arabia to keep the population in line. And then Morocco is another unfortunate one because of the fact that the Yemenis and Somali pirates are attacking Israeli-controlled ships, Israeli-owned ships, and that's causing ships to have to go through the Mediterranean Sea instead in order to provide goods to Israel and goods from Israel. And Morocco would be in a really ideal position to threaten those other ships. And if that doesn't happen, Algeria is still in a good enough position that they could do some of the same stuff. Israel would still be able to get ships through the Mediterranean probably if Algeria did that. But it's unfortunate that Morocco does seem to be controlled by the Zionist forces, at least we could see from this post. But we're seeing a ton of support from Latin America, which is at least somewhat surprising to me. I know they have a strong anti-Zionist group of countries, anti-Zionist political movement down in Latin America because they understand being Zionist controlled because their entire populace is exploited and their resources are extracted. But I was not expecting the strength of the support from various Latin American countries. And so we see here Colombia, which historically has been a very strong ally of the United States, but they have a left-wing government right now. Colombia raises war crime charges against Israel's Netanyahu over bloodshed in Gaza. And Colombian President Gustavo Petro said he will formally file war crimes charges against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over his regime's bloodshed in the besieged Gaza Strip. So strong support here from Colombia. And we can see that the Zionist-occupied United States government, the U.S. House of Representatives, passed a resolution equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which is patently absurd, factually absurd. It doesn't make any rational sense whatsoever, but because the United States is so controlled by Zionist interests, that's what they could do. And this should be a wake-up call for you, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Everyone except for 2 people voted in support of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism being the exact same thing, okay? Factually, they are not the exact same thing. 412 votes yes, 1 vote no, which is Republican Thomas Massie, and 1 vote President Democrat Rashida Tlaib. So 412 out of 414 House of Representatives members are controlled by Israel. That is, by definition, a Zionist-occupied government. And I'm just going to tie this into the greater whole here. Possible conflict between Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana. I don't know how to pronounce that last country. I'm sorry, Guyana. I believe I looked up the pronunciation a few years ago, and I promptly forgot about it, unfortunately. The Brazilian armed forces are on high alert following a notable deployment of military assets and personnel near the eastern Venezuelan-Guyana border. Venezuela wants to annex the Guyana Essequiba region, constituting more than 60% of Guyana's territory. So I don't think Brazil would be involved in this instance. They're just putting their forces on alert because it is next to their border. But this is what I think another flare-up of the worldwide world war that is occurring. It's one of those opening salvos we talk about. It's on a level very similar to the coups that occurred in Africa, but Venezuela is a very strong member or a very strong supporter of the multipolar world, the anti-Zionist bloc. Guyana, on the other hand, wants to be the 51st state of the United States and is controlled by Zionist forces, as far as I understand. It's not one of those notable countries that I spent a lot of time thinking about, but my assumption is this flare-up is related to the unipolar versus multipolar world order, particularly because of my understanding that Guyana does want to become a part of the United States. And so all across the world, we have flare-ups of Ukraine war, Israel-Gaza, the African coups, the tensions over Taiwan, Venezuela versus the supposed hopeful 51st state of the United States. It's happening everywhere. And I predicted this. I didn't know what would occur in Latin America, but I did predict flare-ups in Latin America, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So just to tie this all together, that is the situation that we're facing throughout the world. It's not just about Israel-Palestine. I know the genocide going on in Gaza is very, very sad. It's a part of a greater whole. It's a part of a greater war that's going on between the multipolar and unipolar world orders, between the anti-Zionist and the Zionist faction. So that is really what we have for you today. It's been interesting to see all the ongoings of Zionism and how it's collapsing now that media has become more diffuse, more spread out, less concentrated, because the merchant class is having a lot of trouble holding on to the narrative of the narrative of them being in control without actually being in control. They like to pretend they're not in control, but then they brag every chance they can about how they control everything. And so it's been interesting to see now that there are spaces like Telegram, now there are spaces like Twitter that allow a certain degree of free speech. We're seeing that this information about what's going on, about how both sides of the political aisle in America are controlled by Zionists, we're seeing all this information get out. So it's been interesting. This is a historical moment, because we are seeing the evidence of the crumbling of the Zionist world order. Anyways, that is what I'll leave you with. Some hopeful news about anti-Zionist forces winning in most cases. Unfortunately, not in the House of Representatives, but we'll leave it as is. So if you found this video to be informative, please give us a thumbs up. It does help us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble. Promote our content to anyone who will listen. If you think someone might benefit from hearing about our content, might learn something new from hearing it, please let them know about it. We are being suppressed in the algorithm. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, please leave that in the comment box. I do read all of them. And thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.